What's up, YouTube? This is politically incorrect. So, um, politics is a funny thing, man. It's hard to predict the future when it comes to politics and how elections are going to play out because there's so many different factors that can affect an election that you just can't foresee. Um, I will say this: it's funny how a difference of just 60 days can make an election. Back in July, Gavin Newsom looked like he might be toast. Most polls showed California voters supporting the recall. Larry Elder was beginning to emerge as a political force in California. He was starting to surge and take the lead in alternate candidates as far as taking the governorship of California. And it looked pretty bad for Gavin Newsom. Now, is Gavin Newsom in a situation similar to someone like Andrew Cuomo? No. I mean, this is a guy that was, I believe, it was 2018, was reelected with 62% of the popular vote. Now, it's not the same as a Democrat winning 62% of the vote in, say, South Dakota or Oklahoma or Utah, but it's not that impressive considering how liberal and democratic California is. But still, 62% is still a landslide. So for a guy who going into 2020 was still a relatively popular governor to be fighting for his political life due to some noxiously narcissistic Republican opposition who are doing anything possible to just, you know, renege an election. They got enough signatures, enough support for the recall to the point where it's on the ballot. So Gavin Newsom been fighting for his political life. And I think what's going on, folks, is this. Now, I'm not going to call myself the sage of South Central like Larry Elder, but maybe I should call myself the Raha of Richmond. That's my new nickname, the Rahaj of Richmond, because a lot of times my political predictions are on point. So as the Rahaj of Richmond, um, I'm going to say this. I think that the reality of Larry Elder becoming governor of California is beginning to set in with the voters of California. See, when you're angry and you're pissed off and you're like, God, I can't have Gavin Newsom. No, we're mad. We're tired of dealing with the economy and this bullshit, and we're tired of dealing with this pandemic and all these restrictions, and we're tired of this fucking energy crisis, and we're tired of these fucking earthquakes too. I know it ain't his fault, but goddamn, we gotta blame somebody, and it's Gavin Newsom's fault. All right, we need a new governor that's gonna fix things and do things right. And Larry Elder's leading the poll, and we gotta. Uh, is that right? Yeah. If you guys vote for the recall, Larry Elder's most likely to become governor. Well, look, look, man. Maybe sometimes we gotta sit back and take a deep breath, and we gotta like analyze the situation, before we just become too hasty. You know, what's the? I don't get it. Why are you switching up? No, I'm not switching up. I'm just being a responsible voter. Uh, look, maybe Gavin Newsom, we jumped the gun with this a little bit. It's funny. This is what I've noticed about Republicans and black Republicans that support them. And I'm pretty sure you've noticed this as well. It's fine when they're being black faces to espouse white supremacy, or when they're being an amiable mouthpiece to voice what white Republicans can't openly say, or what they're not supposed to say at least. That's fine. Because if you notice, you never hear a black Republican being asked about anything that's non-race related. Not really. They only talk about something that has something to do with race. And that's when they get everybody's undivided attention and the pat on the head and the cookies and the biscuits and, and all that type of shit. And those biscuits are buttery. They get. But when it comes to actual real issues, Republicans don't trust even black Republicans on that because many of these so-called conservatives aren't really just true conservatives who may not be racist. Many of these motherfuckers are Republicans because the Republican Party has flipped recently and become more or less, definitely in the Trump era. The process has been beginning for the last 50 years, but it's just solidified and completed its transformation during the Trump era. It's now the white supremacist party. And they don't give a fuck how much of a good lapdog you are, how much of a good bow wow wowzer you are, Larry Elder. They will never trust your nigga ass with the keys. Period. You know what's funny? The Republican Party 150, 160 years ago had more use for black people than they do now. Matter of fact, you can make the argument that black people were the core of the Republican Party. They were the focus of the Republican Party in the 1860s into the early 1870s. You had more black representation in Congress. Go check it out. You had more black representation in Congress in 1870 and 1872 than you do now when it comes to Republicans. But over time, these niggas know their place for that party, and they'll never have a place of power. Did you know that in 1964, I just want to mention this and I'll go further in the video. Did you guys know that in 1964, when the Goldwater forces wanted Goldwater to get the nomination, remember Goldwater was one of 6 Republican senators who did not vote for the Civil Rights Bill. And Lyndon Johnson and the Democratic Party and supporters painted Goldwater as a racist. Did you know that black Republicans were literally threatened into submission and being quiet and were being physically accosted by Goldwater Republicans during that convention? As a matter of fact, one black Republican delegate, was set on fire by Goldwater forces. Go look it up. He was set on fucking fire. But it's the party that looks out for you. Yeah, the Democratic Party is full of shit. But goddamn, if the Democrats are the Democratic plantation, what is that? The Republican penitentiary? You know what I'm saying? But anyway, I predict that, and it's not just me, you can see polls. Polls have shown a slippage of support for the recall. That's key. Because the recall doesn't pass. It doesn't matter what the fuck Larry Elder's polling. I think maybe, what, back in July, the recall had 55% to 45% support. Recently, it slipped to 52%, 48% against. And then a new poll has come out. 2 new polls have come out. One of them has it, I think, something like 53% 53% against the recall, 45% for it. And then one poll has it staggeringly 57% against the recall, 38% for. So the support for the recall is slipping. And I have 2 words for it. Larry Elder. And it doesn't help what the fuck he just said recently. Larry Elder, what he's saying is anathema to California politics. Okay? He's not a good fit for that state. He's not. He'd be a better fit. Well, I can't even say what the fuck I want to say, man. But he'd be a better fit for a state like maybe Oklahoma or, you know, uh, Idaho, a state that didn't have a lot of minorities, and he could be as, you know, coolish. He could be the ultimate coon if he wants. Matter of fact, I got to do a Patreon about something that he said recently. It's one of the worst. It's the worst thing I've ever seen a so-called black Republican say. It's the most egregious thing I have ever heard anybody say ever, 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 ever. And I've been listening to coons for decades. I've been following politics since at least 1988 when I was 8 years old. I've never heard a coon say what he said the other day. But I'm going to talk about it on the Patreon. Please subscribe to it. The Patreon is only $2 per month. I'll put a link to the Patreon in the description box below. But yeah, I think that's pretty much why the recall is going to fail, because people are starting to realize the reality of the situation. If they vote yes, they're going to get this idiot, you know, in the governor's office. This idiot who's afraid to debate. This idiot who doesn't want to debate the issues because he will be throttled. Okay? Absolutely throttled. But tell me what you guys think.